But you are seeing some covering coming in on HDFC Bank. Avenue Supermarts, that's the other one which is in focus right now. Brokerages have liked what the second quarter updates are, and Morgan Stanley is hinting at some sort of growth visibility for them. Today it's seeing a meaningful comeback, almost a 4% uptick on Avenue as we speak. And then Bangalore court has initiated criminal proceedings. That is what reports seem to be indicating against Sobha promoters. There are accusations, remember, of forgery in one of the projects worth about 1,000 crore rupees, and which is why you're seeing that big sharp cut come in on Sobha Limited. Now also down about almost 5.5%. But let's welcome on board a chartist and find out what this breach, Kunal, of 19,400, and for a second consecutive, moment in the day, if I can call it that, because for a brief while we did recover as well from that level, but it continues to stay put as is.
Yeah, it continues to be a weak market, weak indices, and till the last couple of days, we were actually seeing a divergence that the index was going through selling, large cap stocks were witnessing selling, but the mid caps and the small caps, used to outperform. But we've not seen that happening today, which means more or less all the sectors and majority of the bent of the market is towards selling as well as maybe profit booking or trying to cut back the leverage in many positions. The only solace for the markets today is the recovery which you're seeing into these key private sector banking names. So maybe that this could be a possible start of a shift from the PSU banking names to the private sector banking stocks. Of course, we'll have to look out for follow through price action. On the index specific, 19,300, which was the previous low, I think the index had hit in the month of August. So we've managed to almost retest the previous major supports for the index. I believe now we should at least get into the zone of stability. May not see a strong growth on the downside, but at least a couple of days of pause, if not a mild bounce.
Nooresh, hi, afternoon. Two stocks for you. A, the HDFC Bank recovery, and does it seem like this is going to see some follow through? And B, the big dip that you're seeing in Axis as well as ICICI Bank.
So we've been seeing this divergent moves in a lot of banking names. So Axis Bank was the one which was holding on for the last many weeks, and HDFC Bank was the one which was drifting lower. Today we are seeing a shift, and that happened post the monthly updates from HDFC Bank. But the structure is still weak, wherein this bounce back could take it max towards that 1580 to 1600 mark, which is where it gapped down. Till the time we don't go above 1600 to 1630, which is the gap down which we saw recently with a very large volume tick, the trend will remain sideways. So for now, we could continue to see some bounce back. First indications of a reversal would be closing above 30-35 levels. Axis Bank, on the other hand, looks like an interesting opportunity here at 990-94 levels. The last low for the stock is 970, and the previous all-time highs, where it was consolidating, was around 990-995 levels. So it's a classical retest of the breakout. So out there it becomes a 10-20 rupees stop loss, and eventually one would expect it to again go back and make new all-time highs. So it's a risk-reward trade, a breakout retest here. So Axis still looks interesting. HDFC Bank could see some bit of a bounce back, but not very convincing.
Okay, point taken. So those were some of the recommendations coming in from the banking arena. But let's talk about the sector and the segment which is managing to buck the trend and is holding up in the green. That's the FMCG space. Nestle is higher by 3% on account of that stock split which is expected. HUL is doing okay. Britannia is also holding up. So a lot of these names from this vertical which are doing all right. What would you do, Kunal, with the FMCG names? Anything that catches your fancy as a fresh buy?
Well, I think HUL is the one which actually looks to at least get into that zone of slight outperformance. Even though I think this is the first day where the stock has shown a swing breakout. By that I mean I think around 7 or 8 days of previous highs have been taken out after today's price action for HUL. But the concern is that the stock has shown this pattern even earlier in the last 2 or 3 months. But then it failed to have an immediate follow-through price action. So I think that's the bigger concern for FMCG names. Now, if there is a decisive trend that the defensives or the market is tilting back towards the defensives or the low beta pocket, then these stocks should have an immediate follow-through, maybe from tomorrow onwards. So if we see a follow-through price action for the likes of HUL, Britannia, etc., then we can decisively say that possibly the markets are tilting towards defensives, and these stocks as well as the entire sector could go into a decent rally mode. So I'll wait out for maybe another day or so of confirmation, only then take a trade on many of these FMCG stocks.
Okay, that's the take coming in on which way FMCG is headed. For right now, we've been marking, the weakness is of course pronounced in names like Axis and ICICI Bank. I can say the same about Bajaj Finserv and Bajaj Finance as well, which is too down about 1.6%. But then again, there are others like an Avenue Supermart, not of course an apple-to-apple comparison, but that stock of course is holding out well. Kunal, you were making the observation earlier in the morning, right, that you do see a material upside on Avenue Supermarts from the current levels.
Well, yes, Aisha. In fact, many of the indicators have started to get into a breakout zone for the stock. And when indicators lead the breakout, prices, they tend to have a very stronger alignment or realignment with the indicators. So I think that's what actually is happening in terms of the technical structure for DMart. The stock in the last 2 weeks, I think there was an attempt towards 3,800, 850 mark for Avenue Supermarts a couple of weeks back, then a retest of 200-day moving average. It managed to protect almost exactly or bounce exactly from those levels of 200 DMA, and then now a retest of 3850 mark as well as a crossover above those levels. So that's again a confirmation that the minor retracement is over and the stock has confirmed a swing breakout. So even that augurs very well for Avenue Supermart. So I believe now the stock should get into a trending mode. My initial targets for Avenue Supermarts would probably be in the range of 4,000 to 4,100. But I would also strongly believe that the stock should scale past about the 5,400 mark, possibly in the next 6 months or so.
Okay, Varun Lohchab too from HDFC Securities joins in on the show right now. Varun, hi, afternoon. Good to have you on the show. Varun, we are 3.5% odd from the recent peak of the market or the all-time peak for the Nifty per se. Just wanted to understand, do you foresee further weakness, or would you say at the current levels after the recent correction that's played out, the valuations at an index level look comfortable?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. So overall index, our view has been over last couple of months that, we are hitting sort of a ceiling in terms of, where possibly the upsides could be, that looks quite muted over the next 6 to 9 months, given the fact that while optically, you might say that Nifty is still only 10-15% above long-term averages, but you have to keep in mind the fact that now earnings are completely normalized across sectors. So in that sense, you are, sitting at sort of peak earnings, and on that market is, of 20 times FY24. Even after this correction, it's around 20.5 times basis our estimates. So while we are off 3-4% from the highs, I won't rule out possibility of another 4-5% kind of a fall, which is possible, but I would not say that it's going to happen for sure. But one has to be prepared for that kind of a volatility, given how global markets are, given how US bond yields are rising, and given the fact that we are not particularly cheap even after this fall. So stay slightly cautious, stay selective, and don't be overexposed in businesses or stocks which are overvalued or which you don't understand as well.
Sure, Varun, but given the fact you're not ruling out the possibility of a 4 to 5% cut in the global volatility, then would you suggest that it's time now to look back into those defensive sectors, pharma, even FMCG for that matter?
I would, it depends. Like between the two sectors that you mentioned, pharma we are positive on, but not so much from a defensive perspective. We believe earnings are going to pick up out there, compared to where we were 6 months back. The pressure on, in US generic seems to be receding at the margin. At the same time, domestic growth is good. Margins are also looking decent. Valuations are reasonable. So pharma, we are positive on. FMCG, we are sort of still underweight in our model portfolio. We have been underweight for last 3 years. While we believe the worst from a volume or a demand perspective is behind, you may not see big upside still, given the fact that valuations are still a bit on the higher side. But yeah, tactically near term, if market falls, then even FMCG could outperform, given it's a classic defensive, plus it has not done much in the last 6-9 months. So stocks which have run up the hardest in the last 6 to 9 months will probably feel the maximum sort of a near-term volatility compared to other sectors.
Right. Okay, that's the take coming in on some of the pharma as well as the FMCG names. But Varun, what's leading to this incessant weakness within the metals pack today?
I think, see, metals, if you see, are closely linked to how China does. And if you look at Chinese markets, they have been quite weak over last, I would say 3 to 4 months. If you look at the Chinese indices, they are down. So the hope of, China recovery and some stimulus coming, which will, lift up the GDP. I think the confidence of global markets and investors on that, hypothesis seems to be waning, and therefore, you are seeing pressure on metal names. And if you would recall, these metal names did have a bounce, and they did move up. In fact, some of them are up on a 6-12 month basis quite significantly. So it's not that it's a completely beaten down sector. So I think there is a possibility of further downside in case one doesn't get visibility on China's recovery.
Before we let you go, Varun, what are the top ideas right now that HDFC Securities is recommending?
So it's across a whole host of sectors. So we have got, in terms of sectors, the ones that we prefer are, as I said, pharma is one of them. We are still positive on power. We are positive on real estate. So names like, DLF and Shobha on the real estate side. In capital goods, we like L&T, NCC on the construction side. So it's a blend. In financials, we like Axis and ICICI Bank. So we have picks across sectors. We don't see any big mispricing or mispriced opportunities in any of the sectors. Nothing is too I would say on the value side. And in fact, in certain sectors, we are struggling to find compelling ideas now, given the way stocks have run up in last 6 to 9 months. So if some volatility comes in and you get better prices, all the more better for investors.
Okay, Varun, on that note, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for making time and speaking with ET Now. Let's get the top recommendations from our chartists as well. And what are the closing trades, Kunal?
So I'll recommend to book profit on the short positions on the Nifty, which we initiated yesterday. My sense is that this 19,300 mark could possibly act as a support for the index. So it's more of a book profit on the short positions on Nifty.
Okay, so it's not a sell on Nifty. It's only the short positions that you need to cover is what Kunal is saying, because he's getting a bounce from 19,300 levels. What about you, Nooresh?
So that would be a buy on Axis Bank. The stock has corrected a good 4% today. 990, 995 was the last breakout point, a retest here and reversing from those levels. So a risk reward at current levels looks interesting, could bounce back and go towards 1,050 again.
Okay, on that note, let's slip into a break. While there is weakness, of course, in the markets, but look at the recovery in Eicher Motors, HDFC Bank, which we've been talking about in any case, and Adani Enterprises, which is sitting at a near 4% gain as we speak right now. So a handful of winners definitely out there. We'll take a very quick break. When we come back, continue tracking markets.